pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These the same? They should have sent that this morning.
I think you got them previously though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. So we're going to take a motion to go into executive
So moved.
session. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, let's get to work here.
Excuse me.
Start with House Bill 63. I'll make a motion ought to pass.
Second?
All right, we took, this is, if you recall, this has to do with epinephrine, delivery of epinephrine. It was, the original bill was just adding epinephrine nasal spray to auto injectors. Knowing that there were other dosage forms of epinephrine coming, I asked OLS to draft an amendment, which you should have. It's 1820S, which would just leave the door open for other types of epinephrine, so we don't have to come back here every time there's something new that hits the market.
Second?
There's one other thing it does.
I know, but I'm seconding so you can discuss. it.
Okay, all right, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Where is 1820?
So we got a motion and a second on the amendment. The other thing that we have that I added was at the end of the bill, section 8. This was at the suggestion of Dr. Ballard from HHS. It just allows if there was a epinephrine prescription filled for one person, if they needed it in emergency, they could use that for a different person without running afoul with the law. So that's the
The amendment?
amendment.
Yeah.
It's not in the,
And
It's
it's
a
from
house
April
in-
29.
yeah, it's, get Representative Grota's name on it. It is, Senator, should you?
Is that the right one? Did I, 067?
18, House Bill 63.
I've got,
That's, the amendment is what is
I've
the
got
amendment?
0067.
1820.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, that, because that's, yes, that's not in this.
So I don't have it.
You don't have it.
No. Let us get
Well,
that. Why don't we do that?
Caitlin, could you make some copies of this, please? Thank you.
You said, what was the number?
1820.
I gave it away. I don't have it.
BQ.
I don't have it.
It was. All right. 316. We're gonna hold on that, right, Senator Prentice?
We are, yes.
We've got ongoing discussions with that. Our version.
So we're still on the same bill, right?
Yep.
Okay.
No, we moved to.
No, I'm just
16.
talking. We're at 63 still.
Okay.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah,
We've got a
yeah.
motion and an
On,
amendment.
on the amendment to discuss the amendment.
And I'm getting some copies of the amendment
Sure.
for you. Yes.
Is this about the amendment?
Thank you. It is, I haven't seen the amendment, but I wanted to raise the point that I had raised in the hearing that there's both this bill and another one that deals with epinephrine in the schools. We had made this one so the effective date was upon passage so that schools and camps would have access to the newer technology. And I just wanted to make sure that as everything finalizes, there's an eye on the effective date so that any changes in the bill in House and Senate Education doesn't end up erasing the good work you've done in here. So I just wanted to bring that to your
I'll take a look
attention.
at it, and if it didn't come back, and we can make a committee amendment to address that.
Fantastic. I just wanted to raise the
We just
point.
exec that yesterday.
You did,
I
okay.
don't know the number off the top of my head, but we just exec that yesterday.
Did you pass it? Did you amend it?
We did.
Okay.
We amended it for all hours of the day and created a fund for gifts and grants to replenish supply of EpiPens based on, whatever epinephrine you're using based on the cost. So those were the two amendments that were made. I just don't remember them. I remember the topic, not the number.
Thank you. And if it would be helpful, I can look at both and just make sure we don't have a timing issue around those effective dates.
That would be great. I can pull.
Thank you.
$677, great. I'll pull it up right now.
Why we don't have that amendment?
I don't know. I ask every time I get one, I ask them to send it out to everybody.
What? Okay. Well, put that there. And
Let's see. I'm looking up
so
here.
this is upon passage. Right. So we might, passage could, well, that could be August. I don't know. Could be July. We need to align.
Thank you. I'm a little skittish now. I thought all of these amendments were circulated to the committee. So Caitlin,
Fresh donut.
we may have, maybe keeping you busy. All right, so you have the amendment in front of you for 63.
Senator Rutherford, you were speaking to your amendment before. Oh, yeah, that would be helpful, huh?
Yes, so
So
you
it
have
just-
it, you have it in front of you. What the amendment does is there's a third thing it does actually that I forgot. So it opens up the definition of epinephrine not to be limited to the delivery systems. So previously, it was focused on auto injectors and nasal spray. This opens it up to any type of use of epinephrine for treatment of life-threatening allergies. In anticipation, there's other dosage forms coming out, this would cover this. The other thing that I neglected to mention when I introduced the amendment is if you look at line 13 on the first page, and this was consistent throughout the amendment or throughout the current RSA, it says the child has written approval by the child's physician, and we know that nurse practitioners and physician assistants will write this, so we change that to primary healthcare provider. And then going back to the back page, page 9, that last paragraph, that was the amendment Dr. Ballard recommended, and it is effect on passage.
Senator Rutherford, I have a question for you. I completely agree on delivery systems, so we don't have to keep coming back. So EpiPens, nasal spray, but one of
Probably a
the,
sublingual coming, and it's probably, yeah.
but what already pre-exists is, you could draw up epinephrine from a single or a multi-dose vial, and that's not usually done except by a licensed provider. That's where, because the others are very it's kind of
Yeah.
like using an AED. I'm not trying to make anything complicated here. So we've even moved away from using drawing up epinephrine in the field for for a number of things, but for anaphylaxis, and using EpiPens as, you know, EMTs and paramedics. So would we be making it so that somebody could have a multi-dose vial and be responsible to draw it up? It's just one of those places that's, that I'm concerned about, with all due respect to providers and error, because it does happen. So you follow where I'm going on this? Like, are we opening that door, or is that,
I see your point. I mean, and you know, we have to always think of the what would happen, right? I you know, if I was a camp or a nurse, I mean, and I'm going to talk through this, right?
okay, yeah,
That would be like the last thing I'd want to have on my shelf.
agreed. And
But
like,
to your point, it's cheap. It's a lot cheaper than a
Yeah.
EpiPen. So,
we have done a lot to limit that kind
yeah.
of, that pathway in the professions, because it is, you know, it's prone
Right.
to, you know, error, even
And
with
if
the
you
best
make an
of
error with
providers.
epinephrine, that's a big error.
Yeah, so I want to do this, but just make sure that we're not opening that door on the other side. So high level language, is there a place in here where you think that that is,
So, I'm just thinking out, you know, it's just thinking, I'm talking as I'm thinking, you know, epinephrine shall not include a multi-dose vial or a single dose ampule.
so we're
I-
going for the ways that are, yeah, I mean, I just want to, because that is very specific
Yeah.
training, very specific,
Yep.
yeah, and I want to keep that. I mean, nurses can do it, paramedics can
Right.
do it, but if physicians can do, all of these people, but you would prefer that they use
Right.
this
I get
auto injector
Yeah.
nasal spray that simple,
sublingual,
direct,
yeah,
one
spray,
dose, boom.
yeah.
Well, auto and dose has been struck out of this quite a bit, right?
Yeah. Well, it is. It's been struck out to use the whole general term epinephrine.
So how would you put that in here?
Well, I mean, my first thought would be epinephrine shall not include
Multi-dose.
a multi-dose vial. And I think it's not multi-dose, it's probably an ampule, right?
Most likely an ampule. Yeah,
Multi-dose vial or ampule.
Where will we write that?
It would go.
you know, I could bring it in as a floor amendment, we could pass
Wanna
it
do
as
that?
is,
All right,
and then we could
think
refine it, and I could talk to, and you know, I want to check with the nurses and the medical society, a
Yep.
couple folks, to make sure we get that right.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's the only protection, and I think it serves everybody.
Yep, that sounds
Most
good.
importantly, the kids, the best. All right.
All right.
Are we hold off on this?
No,
We're
We'll pass
gonna
it as
pass
is,
it as is, and
and
we'll
I'll do-
come in with a floor amendment to
Yeah.
clarify that.
So we're not using this,
We're gonna,
1820.
we are gonna pass 1820. Yeah.
And we'll have a floor amendment, just
So-
so tidy it up.
Any further discussion on amendment 1820? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion
Move
is,
it,
yep. Go ahead.
I'll move amendment 1820S.
Move,
Oh, we-
move, as amended, ought to pass.
Yeah, we just voted on, yeah. You had a late night last night too.
So ought to pass
I know,
as
I know.
amended.
It was a long, all right, ought to pass as amendment. Any further
It
discussion?
needs a second.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can't do consent because we're gonna do
No,
floor
we're
amendment.
gonna keep it, we're not gonna do regular calendar and, we'll do a floor amendment. Yep. I can take that out.
I'd be happy to as well. Either way.
But you can take out the amendment, he can
I've got
take out
this-
the bill.
I've got my yellow sticky notes for it. What else needs to get done?
All right. Let's go to 606.
Move on to pass.
Move on.
A motion on 606 ought to pass.
Second.
We got a second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
so I
there
have
are
an
multiple
amendment.
Amendments. You've got an amendment, I've got an amendment, and we're gonna, and they might all end up being the same.
But I didn't think this was one of them.
606, or 3 of yours I was sent this morning, so we have those out in email, and then I also printed copies. For,
3 amendments for 606?
no.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. So my amendment was actually the amendment that was submitted by Representative Reed with some minor changes.
What's the
I'll
number?
get it.
Amendment 1883S.
Second.
Yeah, there you go. Keep me. And I wasn't up till midnight either.
I didn't sleep at all.
What about, so
18 what?
1883.
I'm looking.
If you don't have it, it did go out, but
I have it.
you got it. Okay.
I just have multiple copies. Hang on a second.
I do too. So.
And I want to get to the right one. Plus, I
1883.
had that, the referral link. And where did that, how much go that I had in my hand?
Is this a replace all?
No.
Oh, it's after. Yeah, it is a replace all, but it's very.
Oh, and then.
Yeah. Yes, right.
I didn't think I'm in 12:15. I couldn't get
Is Representative Reed here to talk about it? Can she walk us through this?
Yeah, she submitted an amendment. The amendment here is essentially the same amendment with some minor changes, but you can, yeah, come on up. And I can tell you where the changes are.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I don't have your version in front of me, but I was just shown it, and it's just a couple minor things. So from the original bill, and I will say that the amendment that I had passed out to you, which is 1710H, which you might have, is the one I'm going to be going off of. That one was largely supported in the House. In the last minute in the committee, there was some concerns around the idea of would gender dysphoria be considered a condition that would guarantee sterilization. And so in order to make sure that we explicitly put that in, they did not pass the amendment, but then now we have this version that does explicitly make sure. So I'll go through the changes between the original bill that as introduced and the changes I have, and then the chair is welcome to interrupt me for his changes. So the reasons, the very specific reasons that a physician shall not deny a medically necessary sterilizing treatment are listed as age, number of children, marital status, or fertility goals contrary to the patient's statement. The original as introduced version said something like the physician's perception of the patient's reproductive desires, which was kind of unwieldy. So fertility goals was clearer. I will just say that the end of that says a physician who violates this right may be disciplined pursuant. Thank you very much. Disciplined pursuant to this chapter. That is true of the entire chapter of 329. All of 329 is disciplined by the medical board. This is not a criminal violation. This is not even a rules violation. I understand, because I have this right in front of me now, that the chair's version makes it clear that it's disciplinary by the Board of Medicine. But you could even strike that entire sentence and it wouldn't change the action of the bill, because the entire chapter is disciplined by the medical board. The second paragraph, I think, has stayed intact with the original version, which simply says that the doctor may require a patient to sign an informed consent or waiver. And if that happens, the doctor is held harmless. The patient can't go after liability for sterilization in particular. Of course, for any, like they left forceps in you, you can still sue your doctor. The definition of medical conditions, this was where this amendment was really important. That's paragraph 3, because the original version said only reproductive issues. However, there are several conditions that we need this protection for that are not specifically reproductive issues. For example, one of the women whose testimony was trying to be read into the bill, and unfortunately we had a time limit and we couldn't finish it. Lupus, you should not be getting pregnant on lupus. You could die, and you will almost certainly miscarry anyway. This woman had endometriosis, begged her doctor for a hysterectomy for years. They denied her. She ended up contracting lupus, got an unintended pregnancy on lupus, and very predictably miscarried. But more importantly, because she got pregnant on lupus at the age of 28, will forever be on renal medication because she has permanent kidney failure from having a pregnancy while on lupus. So these conditions, so the definition of medical condition here is expanding not just reproductive. So it's basically, I'll read it. Disease, disorder, syndrome, symptoms, genetic predisposition, or family medical history, or the state of being medicated, because there's also medications that could make reproducing inadvisable, that either affect the reproductive system or make reproduction not advisable, contraindicated, if you will, either for the medical interest of the patient or for potential children. So this way we're covering things like a woman with cancer who should not be getting pregnant, does not want children, and should not be having an accidental pregnancy. We're also covering people who have like a terrible genetic disorder that will pass their disorder on to children and don't want children. And then we further go on, this is another difference from the introduced version. Appropriate reproductive care for medical conditions shall include the following. All of these are removals of reproductive organs, including the testes, because we have some instances where men had testicular cancer, asked for both testes to be removed. The doctor refused, and in the remaining testes, it came back. And then for the purposes of this section, this is a new addition. Gender dysphoria shall not be considered a medical condition that affects the reproductive system. I don't think anyone argues that it does directly affect the reproductive system, and it shall not be considered a condition that makes reproduction not advisable. And I don't think there's any medical board or association that says that people with gender dysphoria should not be parents. So I think that was already kind of clear in that definition of medical condition, but we're very explicitly saying that. And then the end of that sentence is, however, if someone with gender dysphoria has one of those conditions, they won't be denied on the basis of having gender dysphoria. So if someone with gender dysphoria has endometriosis, they can still access the medically necessary sterilization, but that is not the same as a sex reassignment surgery. So those are, and then the end of this one was just clarifying that the medical board will serve as essentially an appeals board. If a doctor does deny and the patient feels like they do have a condition that qualifies and the circumstance qualifies, the appeals board or the medical board will review that case and determine whether or not that person should have been given a sterilizing procedure. And then review of complaints asserting violation of RSA. I'm sorry, I'm going off of my version. I think the other version is similar, if not identical. Did I cover that, Mr. Chair? The
I
differences?
think so. Any questions of the committee? 'Cause I didn't, the amendment that you have, 1883, is largely.
It's almost identical, yeah.
Yeah.
So we get 1710 from the day of.
Yep.
Mike?
Thank you. 1710 from the day of, and 1883. I just followed everything except for one piece.
Sure.
Is that what you're working?
Yeah,
We're working on
1883.
1883.
You don't have a copy of the 1883?
I just got one. Thank you.
And she summarized really
Yeah.
that there's just slight differences
And I
in there.
was able to note those in what was presented day one.
There is a 3-year time period that a person has to go to the medical board to ask for a review of their case. And then review of complaints asserting a violation of RSA, this section, relative to appropriate reproductive care, including disciplinary proceedings and assessment of fines. So yeah, that adds to the list of the duties of the medical board, this specific. So we're kind of cross-covering ourselves here.
Who determines, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
who has gender dysphoria or not?
Who determines who has gender dysphoria? So
How is that determined?
well, in general, there's usually a diagnosis from a physician, although it would be most likely a different physician, probably a mental health professional, but that person has a diagnosis from a mental health professional. Having said that, I think it doesn't really matter, because even if the person doesn't have a diagnosis, if they are asserting that I need access to a sterilizing treatment because I have gender dysphoria, it will not count. That's what we're saying here. Like, it doesn't matter if they have a diagnosis or not. If that's the reason they're saying they deserve the sterilizing treatment, then this won't cover them for that.
Question answered.
Question answered.
Any further discussion on 606 or at the amendment? We need a vote. You have a motion and a second on the amendment. Yep. Are we ready?
Yep.
Senator Prentice, Senator Long? You all set? Okay. So the motion is to adopt amendment 1883S. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All
Move
right,
on to
then.
pass as amended.
Motion ought to pass as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I have a motion for consent. So Senator Long moves consent. Senator Avard seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
So Senator Birdsell will take that out. Very good. Moving right along. So, let's see.
Right to try, 701.
701. Let's talk about that for a minute.
I move on to pass.
A motion ought to pass. I had some questions answered last night, but something happened this morning. I don't know if we want to move on that.
Well, we don't have to, because it's not in that line.
Right. So we've got a motion ought to pass. I'll second for the sake of discussion. I'll second that. So 701 FN, this is the right to try bill.
Yeah.
I had some questions about this bill, which were answered last night. I talked to Ian Hewitt last night on my ride home and largely answered my questions. At that point, I was comfortable with this bill.
Excuse me.
You know, some other things have come up this morning, and I'm a little, less inclined to pass this as is. I don't know if we may want to hold on to it for a little bit. Yeah, we can talk about it. One of my bills was pulled off consent in the House in order to
Okay,
contingent
Well, hold
on
on.
the
You want to
status
hold?
of this bill.
Just keep moving. But
Okay. all right.
So we may want to plant some Christmas trees.
So do you like the bill, though?
I like the bill.
Okay. So, are we holding somebody hostage?
Well, I think we're kind of in a tough situation, let's say.
Why don't we just put?
Well, let's do that. Let's pass this. Why don't we, can we amend it with the bill that's? All right,
Gives the
It's not an
opportunity.
FN.
It is an FN.
it is an FN, yeah.
701 FN.
Can we, let me ask you this, can we amend this bill and put on a previously passed Senate bill as an amendment to this bill? As a committee amendment? So what I would like to do is pass Senate Bill 250 or attach Senate Bill 250 onto this bill as a committee amendment.
What is 250?
That's the Pharmacist Administration of Long-Acting Injectables.
That got killed?
It was passed in the Senate or House and it was pulled off consent. And we don't know why.
Uh,
All right. We can do it.
Get the full answers.
so we can pass this and then amend it on the floor?
No, I think we should hold it.
Yeah, and see what happens with Senate Bill 250.
We have till next week, right?
All right.
Okay, but we're still gonna move forward with this.
You know, I think that there's a desire to move forward with it. I like it. I think it answers, it does some good things for people who need it. I think that the premise is good, but I'm understanding that the reason that 250 was pulled off was because of this. And,
Because of this bill?
yeah,
Why don't we talk about that later?
yeah. All right.
Did you have question or comment?
No, I actually wanted to know if we could take a brief recess so I could go over to Governor Council.
Yes,
And maybe
we can do
you
that. Yep,
because
we'll
that-
recess.
All right.
Yep, absolutely. We're in recess.
Do you-
back in.
Did we get an answer?
So where do we stand? Hey there. Hey, we used your office. Yeah, you had lots of chocolate in there.
Where did you find it?
Are you kidding? But I didn't take any. No,
Didn't take any. I heard that story before.
it's not worth another stint.
How did we do in the House?
We were unable, because of precedent and in practice in the House, once it has been removed from consent, you're unable to put it back on the consent calendar. However, if this proceeds forward, there's no reason to do anything if the bill's already passed. It's just gonna go back to consent on voice. Well, it would be a voice vote at the end of the day, like it was the first time.
Okay. So with that, we have a motion and a second on HB 701.
Is there an amendment that goes with this?
We
Mr.
have
Chairman?
a Murphy amendment.
Could I move that Murphy amendment, please?
So, yeah, I'll second that. So you want to speak the amendment,
Oh, I
Senator?
have it.
As soon as I get another copy of it.
Yeah.
But this was explicit to right to hasten basically the suicide, if you will. And this prevents this bill from going forward with the hastening of suicide, from what I understand. It is it's 1574S. Section,
Love one, thank you.
So you want to say notwithstanding? We did that already.
is this the one I want? This is the Murphy amendment,
It says Murphy on the top.
right there? Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Just-
Indeed. No.
Is-
Yeah, do you want to keep E?
So do you want to strike E on this?
You want to explain
So
that to
I-
the committee? No. Okay.
Kate,
So I,
you may have already talked.
So was this, this amendment, I thought it was to kind of circumvent MAID, medical assistance.
yes, yes.
I don't see it in here.
I don't see it in here.
D.
Entity has not engaged in willful misconduct. Willful misconduct
Okay,
shall
got
include.
it.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
Avard and me.
yes.
Senator Avard. Yeah, and so the question comes up is there's some, in speaking with our committee council, there have been some questions raised about A, B, C, and E on this amendment. And there is a recommendation that we may pass the D section and hold off on the others until, if we go through with this, get changes on the floor. Any thoughts on that? Or we can just pass this as is and fix it on the floor. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. Let's do that.
Okay.
All right. So I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on Amendment 1574S? Yes, Senator.
Just, who's gonna work on this? Okay, because I'm happy to, all right, I want to pitch in.
Yep.
Add it to the sticky note.
You volunteered.
Yes, I did.
All right. So Amendment 1574S. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Move on to pass as amended.
704 ought to pass as amended. We got a second from Senator Birdsall. Any further discussion? Yeah.
No,
No.
we just determined to pass the amendment.
We just said we would pass the amendment and then fix it on the floor.
Yeah. That's the way I understood it too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, whatever, however we feel that needs to be fixed. All right, so any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So this will not go on consent.
Who's gonna take it out?
Let's see.
I'll pick it up.
All right, I was gonna say if there's any other senator, you're the volunteer. All right. House Bill 712.
I'll move on to that.
We got a motion ought to pass on House Bill 712.
Second.
We got a second. Kate,
You have an
I see
amendment.
one amendment going back from April. Is there should be another
There
amendment,
should be
correct?
two, and then
All right,
Kevin, do you have it? Because I have two.
I had 1889S.
I'm gonna
Gordon
move
Rochford.
amendment 1889S.
Second.
All right. So what this does is you,
Suzanne, did you have a question?
Senator.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I've got the right amendment.
all right.
I'll hold my comments
All right.
as we, and put them in the appropriate place.
Couple things. It clarifies some of the definitions that we have there. The other thing that it did,
I did.
the other thing the amendment did is it did not prohibit breast surgeries subject to the conditions of 329-53-2, which if you go up there, that's the definitions part on page 1 of the amendment. The other thing it did was just change the discipline portion of this to be in, to come under the jurisdiction of the Board of Medicine, licensing entity. And then I think that's all we had there, right, Kate? Yeah. That's it. Oh, the referral part. Yeah, so that's what changes. Any referral. So that was a question that came up. Any referral for a provision of genital surgery was subject to legal action. And there was some confusion as for what does that referral mean? Is that somebody, answering a phone? So that's changed to provision of surgery. And with that, I think, yep, that I believe encompasses the aspects of the amendment. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Not on this.
So I'm going to call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move on to pass as amended.
We got a motion on to pass as amendment and a second. Any further discussion? Senator Prentice.
Thank you, Senator Rochford, and thank you for your work on the amendment. I think that it is, it moves us to a better place, but I'm not going to support the underlying bill. I have a few reasons. One is that this undermines the rights of parents in making medical decisions for their children, and we talk a lot about medical decision making and the rights of parents and minors, so I'm uncomfortable with that. I also am uncomfortable once we got the data back from the Department of Insurance that it conflicts with the statements that were made that there had been 43 procedures done in the state between 2017 and 2023. And it names specific hospitals, actually makes accusations that turns out, in terms of the numbers, do not correlate. And so I have concerns about the data that was brought before us, because I think it's one thing to use it's one thing to use a code to, but you have to really drive it to ground record by record. So appreciate the work on the amendment. Don't want to undermine parental rights, and I do have a concern about the data that was presented. So I'm going to be a no vote, but thank you for your work.
All right, any further discussion?
I just
Senator
wanna-
Bertzel.
I just want to say, I understand your concern, but even the information that we received did show that there, although we don't know who they are, there were 2 hospitals that have done it. So, and I have real concerns about that.
Senator Prentice.
I agree, but not in the numbers that were presented, which starts to make, so that, that's, you know.
Yeah.
But
I
I-
think 1 is too many, but
Yeah, so but parental having, if we're talking about the rights of parents in medical decision making, everywhere else we go, this is one place I want to draw a line for me. That's okay. I mean, there are differences, and then we move forward. All right.
Any further discussion? So, 712 ought to pass as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, yeah. I was not out as late as Senator Bertzel, but I just had a moment. I'm sorry.
3-2.
I'll take it out.
Senator Bertz will take it. Right. I think that all I had on my list today.
What about 377?
377.
You want to hold on that one?
Yeah, I actually have a meeting later today about that. I want about another proposed amendment. I want to make sure that I get that. And that's okay. That's
How many do we still have?
so we've got
117,
yep,
316, and 377?
yep.
Okay.
We got 3 left
I didn't have 6.
by next week.
Yep.
And that would be 316 and 377.
377 is the only one that has to be. I've got the other waived. Yep. Yep. So that's
Oh, okay.
316 doesn't have to be?
It's been waived off by finance.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
any further discussion?
negative.
Motion to move out of exec.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thanks, everyone.
So I believe the work of today is done. We will adjourn the hearing.
Too much paper.
I just do this.